What's going on with today's video is an Apex Legends Season 6 video. Today's title is You Are Using Bloodhound Wrong in Apex Legends Season 6. So today's video I'm pretty excited to talk about because the reason I'm making this video is I was playing with one of my boys. I don't know who it was, but that's besides the deal. I was playing with somebody and we have this random in our team and he took Bloodhound. And as you guys know, I'm a Bloodhound main as a Season 6. I've been playing Bloodhound, nothing but Bloodhound. He ended up doing terribly, right? Terribly bad. Like, he wasn't scanning, he wasn't using any of his abilities, he wasn't doing nothing. And so I decided, you know what? Might as well write some type of guide to help out beginner players or intermediate players, and even advanced players. You know, this could help out almost everyone at this point, because sometimes we forget, and I tend to forget these things sometimes. But I wanted to go ahead and write a guide, so today's title is You Are Using Bloodhound Wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. So the first thing I want to talk about is Eye of the Allfather. This is his tactical. The cooldown is 25 seconds. It takes about 1.8 seconds for ability to activate. So why am I telling you this? I'm going to go ahead and let you know later on. It's important to let you know these stats because we're going to do some quick math right now. When Beast of the Hunt is activated, cooldown is reduced to 6 seconds. It takes 0.9 seconds for ability to activate. So that's when you have your ultimate. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I want to talk about some simple math facts. Some simple math facts for you guys. Beast of the Hunt lasts 35 seconds if you don't down anybody. If you down an enemy, will add 5 to 15 seconds depending on the remaining duration of the ultimate. So on average, you know, what I did is I added 5 plus 15 and divided that by 2, which equals 10 seconds on average. Beast of the Hunt lasts 45 seconds on average if you down enemies. That's pretty much how I got that. I just added 35 plus 10, so 45 seconds if you're able to down 1 or 2 enemies, roughly on average. This means that in 45 seconds you can scan an average of 6.52 or at least 6 times. The reason I rounded down is because you should at least be scanning 6 times whenever you use your Beast of the Hunt. It doesn't matter if you're low on heals, it doesn't matter. That's just excuses. You should be scanning for your team as much as possible. So the way I got this 6 times 6.52 is I went ahead 45 seconds divided by 6.9 seconds. And that gave me 6.52 173913, which is the exact decimal count. But what I'm trying to say here, and the way I got 6.9 seconds is, you know, the cooldown is reduced to 6 seconds, so I just added 6 plus 0.9 seconds, 0.9 seconds for the ability to activate. You have to keep that into consideration when you're scanning, you know, that's time that is being wasted. And so I added 6 plus 0.9, that's 6.9 seconds, and just divided the 45 seconds on average that you have Beast of the Hunt and you're able to scan, divide that by 6.9 seconds. It's a little confusing, but the reason I'm trying to tell you this is at the end of the day, you should be at least scanning 6 times. And so the importance of constantly scanning as a Bloodhound, it gives your team information on where the enemy is at. This info allows you and your team to decide what the next play is, whether it's to reposition because there's too many teams around, or stay and fight because you feel you have an advantage over the team. But it depends on the situation, and it's just, you're gonna have to trust your gut in certain situations. Now, this is going to become easier as you progress as a Bloodhound main, but you need to realize how important that scan is. Even if you have to heal, it's better for you to scan first and then go ahead and pop that heal, just to let your teammates know exactly where people are at, and just to have extra information in general. You could see through walls, you might as well use that. So now the question is, when should you scan? When should you use your ultimate? The first question I'll answer it later, but the second one, when should you use your ultimate? The ultimate should be used when engaging, or you know you are about to engage in a fight. As you get more experience playing as a Bloodhound main, it will become easier to know in exactly what situations you're supposed to, but most of the time it will be common sense. A good example is if you start seeing 1 or 2 teams that are ahead of you and you're about to get in a fight, it's more important for you to pop that ultimate now, to have it ready, than to pop it later. And there's going to be situations where you might pop that ultimate, you might use it, and it's only on one person. But I don't think that's a wasted ultimate. I think what you're doing is you're hunting chasing down that Octane, chasing down that Pathfinder, whoever it might be. But at the same time, you have that cooldown to 6 seconds while you're using that ultimate. You should be scanning throughout the entire time. That way you let your team know you're still chasing one person. There's not going to be a third party. You're still securing at least one kill. And so this depends on eliminations and how many kills you're trying to get. But Bloodhounds, you should be getting a decent amount of kills. And, you know, professional players are going to be using them as aggro as possible. It's just Bloodhound is used offensively more than defensively. It's a much more aggressive legend. So then the question is, what is more important, to heal if you're 10 HP or scan? You should always scan first. This is personally what I think. You should always scan first to help your team, then heal while your scan is recharging. That's just the way I'm always thinking as a Bloodhound main. So you should always be scanning first to help your team and then heal later. And this just allows you to understand, okay, these are where players are located, the proximity, how close they are, and how much time I'm going to have, because it takes you like 4, 5, 6 seconds to pop a heal, depending on what it is. A battery, a syringe, a med kit, whatever it might be, even a Phoenix kit, it takes you longer, right? So you need to know exactly where the enemy is at so you can have enough time to pop that heal. And if you have enough time, just do it almost immediately. I almost heal almost immediately after I scan, just to make sure. And if they're too close, then I start taking out my weapons, start making sure to be ready for him to come around the corner, to come around that doorway. It doesn't matter. But that's the whole point, is to always be aware of your surroundings as a Bloodhound. You should be scanning when in suspicion of enemies being around. So that's when should you be scanning. And this is whenever you're not popping your ultimate. This is when, you know, the cooldown is 25 seconds and you're not popping that ultimate to reduce it to 6 seconds. The cooldown is 25 seconds. You should be scanning when in suspicion of enemies being around. So you think, how do you know that? How are you in suspicion? Or why should you be in suspicion? Well, Bloodhound mains, Bloodhound players, you need to understand all the abilities that you have. There's markers that enemies leave behind, and you could check those out. And I know that's super obvious, but there's markers for everything. And I'm pretty sure even Bloodhound mains don't know this. There's markers for clambering. There's markers for blood was drawn here. There's markers for jumping over something. Wow, that's clambering. There's markers for pretty much everything. Okay, everything. And you can look it up. It's just so much information out there. I'm going to be making a video on how to play Bloodhound soon. And it's just something that I really have a passion about, because Bloodhound is so good this season. But in reality, you should be scanning when a suspicion of enemies being around. Try to trust your gut and look for Bloodhound markers. This will let you know how long ago players' actions were made. Now, that might seem very obvious to some people, but I'm telling you guys, sometimes we don't look at the ground. We're always, you know, centering our target. We're always looking at that stuff. And we should, you know, as a Bloodhound, you should always, I'm not saying to have your crosshairs on the ground. That's not a good thing. What I'm saying is you should be looking at your entire screen. You shouldn't just be focused and tunnel vision on one thing. So try to look at those markers. Try to see, okay, if it was 30 seconds ago, then they're most likely here. If it was 45 seconds ago, then it's probably not worth to scan, because I'm going to just waste it. They're probably further away. So if players are not in sight, you can hear them, and player tracks were 45 seconds ago, it's probably better to save your scan. If the tracks were made 25 seconds to 30 seconds ago, and you are in suspicion that someone's around, well, there's nothing wrong with, you know, wasting that 25 second, right? Waiting for the next cooldown, just scanning. Go ahead and scan. It's going to take another 24, 25 seconds to get your scan back, but at least you figured out, okay, there's no players around this area. My team can go and take a breather, be all right, and just be ready for a next fight. You know, be ready for when players are actually there. But that's the whole idea. And yeah, again, just be aware that when you are not in your ultimate, the tactical cooldown is 25 seconds. But you should always, and I'll repeat, try to grab ultimate accelerants. You know, I'm not saying grab like a shit ton of ulti accelerants like you're a Watson, but I'm saying like if you see one in the ground, and you don't have your ultimate yet, that will increase it to like 30-35%, which is huge, man. It's like you could pop that, and you could be constantly popping that ult throughout the entire game. And to my friends, I might be annoying because I'm constantly on that Bloodhound screen. I'm constantly, you know, letting the enemy know where I'm at, because, you know, Bloodhound breaks like Darth Vader. he's such a huge advantage to have because you're constantly scanning, being able to flank enemies and just taking them down from the sides. Even players with 20 bombs or players that are insanely good at this game, they don't expect that. They don't expect that. They'll hear you and stuff, but if you have a Volt SMG and you shoot them in their back, they have to do a whole 180 to turn around and shoot at you. They're most likely, if you don't miss your shots, you're going to knock them. It doesn't matter if they're the best player on the planet. It is what it is. And if you're using a controller, they're gonzo. Those are just my thoughts, my opinion on this matter. I wanted to go ahead and make this video just to help some people out because I'm just tired of seeing Bloodhound being taken and just not used correctly. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like, subscribe. If you guys haven't, hit that notification bell, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.